Welcome back to Obscurus Gaming, and today we are reviewing Train Valley Collection, released towards the end of last year for the Switch. This specific collection is the physical-only edition and contains both Train Valley 1 and Train Valley 2, plus a lot of updates each game received over the last few years. I've never played either game up to this point, and now with Train Valley World, the third game in the series releasing some point in 2024, at least for PC, it's as good of a time as any to check them out. Let's get started. Before I dive too deep, I want to be clear that Train Valley Collection is a physical-only release containing the standalone games Train Valley 1 and Train Valley 2. This isn't some remastered collection really, or a new digital release or anything like that, meaning that when you boot it up on the Switch console, two separate games that pop up individually. That kind of makes it weird to review using my normal scoring method, so instead of using that, I will be comparing both of the games, sharing my thoughts on each, and then giving you a final score based on my experience with the collection as a whole. In Train Valley 1, the premise is pretty simple. You'll be tasked with managing a fleet of trains that need to transport passengers to a nearby station, all of which are color-coded. The faster and larger the train, the more money you'll make, but if you run out of money at any point, you'll instantly bankrupt and you will have to start over. You'll spend pretty much all of your time laying down tracks, dispatching trains, and manually controlling switches to make sure trains get to the specific station they need to go to. The difficulty comes in managing multiple trains at one time, and avoiding crashes with other trains while remaining as efficient as possible. The whole experience for me was very reminiscent of my time with Mini Metro, another streamlined transportation game that focuses on delivering passengers to specific stations, and the larger the level grows, the more tricky it becomes to juggle all of its moving parts. Now in Train Valley 2, to my surprise, the premise changes significantly. Instead of just sending trains from one station to another, you'll now be responsible for collecting and transporting goods. When a new level boots up, you'll be given requirements that each city on the map needs as the winning condition, as well as a timer that awards stars for how quickly you can complete the challenge. For example, City A might need 10 pieces of glass, and City B might need 6 cows. And the level is completed when each city has what it needs. But in order to make glass, you need to deliver sand to the glass factory. But in order to get sand, you need to deliver people from the city to the quarry. It becomes a little industrial engineering experience, or puzzle in a way. Now, it's still similar to the first game, as the experience still becomes a juggling act of sending trains from one spot to another on tracks that you have to build. But instead of sending trains to a very specific station in the first game, you first have to figure out the most efficient way to collect the resources you need for each city. Back to Train Valley 1, the game takes you through several eras of technology, each getting more advanced as you go. Each era contains a handful of levels representing different countries, even if visually they all look a bit similar. When watching these gameplay videos, you'll see the 5 main buttons in the top left allowing you to do the following: dispatch trains, build tracks, bulldoze, switch tracks, and start or stop moving trains. In the top right, you'll see a year counter that fills up, and you must survive until this blue bar fills up without going bankrupt in the process from paying annual taxes, spending too much on tracks, or fixing mistakes like train crashes, which can be quite costly, at least early on in a level. But as the level goes on, more and more stations open up, which is where the challenge comes in, especially when you start juggling a half-dozen trains crisscrossing the way from one side to another. After you get through the initial control hurdle, which feels very clunky and unrefined for a while, you'll eventually get in a nice rhythm, and it can be fun trying to complete all the objectives each level presents. The game also presents a sandbox mode, which allows you to play any level without a money or time restriction. In Train Valley 2, the game also takes you on a technology journey from small, slow steam-based trains all the way up to the future era of trains the game calls the Space Age and more. Similar to the first game, this becomes a nice progression of complexity that eases the experience. Now, the controls here have been improved by mapping your options to a single button. For example, in the first game, in order to say dispatch a train, you needed to scroll through your options until your tiny cursor was on the right one, which was slow and archaic even if I did get used to it. In Train Valley 2, the game has clearly been better optimized for consoles, so if you, let's say, wanted to dispatch a train in the second game, it's just one button versus like 5 in the first game. Being that both these games were ported over from the PC version, I should mention that each contains touch controls as well, although I personally didn't dive into these during my playthrough much. Now, outside of the main levels in Train Valley 2, this is called the Community Edition because it contains about 150 additional levels to get lost in, some of which are super creative and really outside the box. These combined with the main levels and the first game means you're looking at close to 100 hours of gaming, which is a nice value for the $30 I paid. The gameplay differences between the first and second games don't visually look all that different, but I can't emphasize enough how they have a completely different feel. You see, in Train Valley 2, because the game is more about delivering resources from point A to point B, the game is way less sandboxy, making it feel like there is an optimal solution to a lot of the track design, where in Train Valley 1, the game definitely is more focused on your own decisions when laying tracks. As levels advance and fill up, the chaos of the first game can be more entertaining, where the second game is more analytical. Both have their pros and cons, but it's something I wanted to make a note of before anyone were to tackle these games. The improved controls, slightly expanded options, and addition of verticality to the second game are also all nice, and once you get used to that, it can make it feel a little weird going back to the first game, even if I kinda like the rhythm of the gameplay in the first one slightly better. In the end, Train Valley Collection is a super addicting experience for fans of any puzzle or train games who don't want a massive learning curve, but want a ton of content. I think anyone playing through this will lean towards one or the other, like for me the first being more fun, but the second having way more better quality of life features that make the first game feel a bit dated. I also went in thinking this experience would be kind of like the popular Railway Empire series, and in some ways it is, but the casual nature of them makes it feel like they share more in common with the Mini Metro and Mini Motorway series, which is not a bad thing at all, just a bit surprising. In the end, this is definitely a worthwhile collection to pick up, with a ton of replayability, upwards of maybe 100 hours, even if the repetitive nature of the game might not be for everyone. Also, definitely be on the lookout for Train Valley World. I know I'll be on the lookout for that now, which from what I can tell is kind of combining the gameplay of both of these games, adds some online to the experience, and adds a level creator, so it has my attention. But anyways, thanks for watching everyone, and I'll catch you next time.